In this video, we're going to talk about 3 unhelpful thinking styles that I noticed I was doing the most. Keep watching.
Jessie Trip.
I can't tell if you're joking.
Hello again, beautiful people. I am Jessie Triff, and this is my channel, Jessie Triff. So today we're talking about negative thinking habits, or unhelpful thinking styles is a nicer way to put it. There's about 10 well-known or popular or well-defined unhelpful thinking styles. And often when you start seeing a coach or you start working on your mindset and your personal development, it'll be suggested that you look at those unhelpful thinking styles and try to identify which ones resonate the most with you when you look at your life. So we're going to go over the 3 that I tend to find creep into my mind the most often, and go over an example of what it may look like and also something that you can do instead. And at the end of the video, I'll give you 3 steps that you can do to try and understand how one of these may creep into your life or your mindset, and what you can do to start to create new pathways in your brain to help you not default to these thinking patterns, and instead your brain can start to automatically choose a different route. Which, disclaimer, it's not a quick process. You do have to invest time and energy into changing these thinking habits and these thinking styles, but it can be done, and it will make a difference in how you interact with others, how you tackle problems, how you view your life and your future, how you live in your internal world, because we have our outside world and our relationships with others and the beauty of nature and everything of our experiences, but we also have our inner world that only we are in, that only we experience, that only we feel. So working on our thought patterns and our thinking processes help our inner world to be as healthy and positive and enjoyable as it can be. So let's get into it. The first unhelpful thinking pattern is personalization. And personalization is when we blame ourselves or others for something that isn't entirely our or their fault. So an example of this is if I get a headache and I decide to blame it on my partner because they were watching an action movie that had a lot of sound and lights. So I decide to blame them for my headache instead of saying, well, I did choose to sit there and watch the movie. Or it can be us blaming ourselves for something that isn't entirely our fault. Like if my partner would get a headache for watching a movie that I liked that had a lot of action and lights and sounds, and I said they got a headache because I had them watch that movie. It's not my fault that he watched that movie and got a headache, and it's not his fault that I watched that movie and got a headache. Personalization causes a lot of blame and guilt, and instead, when we don't personalize things by blaming ourselves or others for things that are not their or our fault, we approach ourselves and others with more compassion, love, acceptance, and encouragement for how sometimes things just happen and it's not anybody's fault. The second unhelpful thought pattern is jumping to conclusions. And this one took me a little while to identify where and how I was doing it. And there are 2 different types of jumping to conclusions. One is mind reading and one is fortune telling. With mind reading, you are simply thinking really that you know what others are thinking about or making assumptions about. And fortune telling is when you have a challenge or a problem or you're thinking about anything and you feel like you already know what the outcome is going to be. So let's use a shopping trip with friends for an example with this one. Let's say you're going to go out shopping with your girlfriend, and you already know your girlfriend likes to spend a lot of time in the fitting room. So you think, oh, it's gonna be such a long day. She's gonna have me watch her try on like 20 different outfits. I'm gonna be so tired. That's fortune telling. You're already seeing in your mind that it's gonna be a long day, and you're fortune telling that she's gonna do that. You don't really know that that's the case. So with mind reading, let's say you're going through the clothes and your friend finds a shirt that she likes. Your mind reading, if you think in your head already, oh, Lisa is choosing these shirts and she thinks like that I'm just gonna sit there and wait for her while she tries on all these shirts. She's just expecting that I'm just gonna sit there and wait. Wow. Like, you don't know that she's planning on trying anything on yet at this point. And you have no idea if she actually really appreciates your patience or feels encouraged by the comments that you make. You don't know what's going on inside her head, and you don't know what she's going to do, but you're ruining your shopping trip with her by thinking all of these fortune telling and mind reading thoughts. What this does is it takes away your opportunity for an authentic, joyful, living in the present moment day with your friend. So instead, allow your friend to be who they are and allow yourself to be who you are without the thoughts of your experience depending on her, what she's going to do, what she might be thinking. Let yourself be who you are and enjoy the day and deal with every situation as it comes. The third unhelpful thinking habit is using should, must, and ought. When we use should by saying, I should go over and visit them, or we should really go do this, it's placing guilt before you even make your decision to do something. It's insinuating that this is something that if you don't do it, you should have done it. Like it was the wrong choice not to do it. And when we put shoulds and must and ought on other people by saying, he should really, what that causes is frustration. We get frustrated with that person. We get frustrated with their choices or their behavior. So we're either placing guilt on ourselves or we're getting frustrated with other people when we use shoulds and you must do that, you really ought to do that. It's opinions that really see? It's opinions that if we did not hold those opinions on others or ourselves, we would be allowing ourselves and others to be authentic in who they are and to have autonomy, which is freedom of self and choice in their own lives, to be doing what they think or what we think is best for us or them. So let's say, for example, I have a family member who is ill and I would like to go visit them. If I say I really should go visit them, it turns it into an obligation. It takes away my freedom of choice and makes me feel like if I don't go, I can't really accept myself or I did something wrong. By taking the should out and saying, if I choose to go visit my family member, I will feel so good. Those two things feel very different to me. It's giving me a freedom of choice and it's empowering and has a positive feeling. Now, if we use should with others, let's say a family member is ill and I would love if my sister went to go see them. If I choose to say, oh, my sister should really go see them, I'm placing an obligation on my sister that I think that it's important that she goes. And if she doesn't go, that it's not really acceptable. When we do that, it causes us to be frustrated with others. So it gives me a reason, or it causes me to be frustrated with my sister if she doesn't go. But my sister has a choice of what she feels is the best thing for her to do. So instead, if I say something like, if my sister would go see my ill relative, I would feel so good that they got the company. It's about me. It's not about my sister. So it's allowing people a freedom of choice. It's allowing them to be who they are and make their choices without judgment, frustration, or guilt. I would love for you to try and see where you place shoulds in your sentences in your life for others, but mostly for yourself. And when you start taking shoulds away from your vocabulary and your self-talk, I think that you'll notice it's very empowering. And I would love to hear, if you count how many shoulds you say in a day, I would love to hear it. I should do that myself too. And I always try to rephrase, like if I'm not going to say should, what am I going to say instead? And then feeling the difference between those two things. So we have personalization, where you're blaming yourself or others when it's not your fault. And then we have jumping to conclusions, like thinking that we know what others are thinking, or we're fortune telling and thinking that we already know what's in the future. And there's 3 where we are using shoulds, oughts, and musts, where we're placing guilt already or we're getting frustrated with others. And today or tomorrow after this video, I want you to think about those 3. And do you notice one of these creeping in? Or maybe even all 3? And an idea that you can do is write down an example from your life where you notice each of these take place. And then after you write down those examples, for each one, write down something that you could do instead. A different way that you could think about that situation. A different way you could say what you said. A different thing you could think about instead of thinking about what you did. And like I said in the beginning, this is a process. It's not like once you know the unhelpful thinking style, you're going to be able to make it go away. It's a practice. But identifying them and thinking of alternative solutions allows you to see a way out, to start a new neural pathway in your brain and continue to increase the positivity and the happy environment in your inner world. There you have it for this week. It was so nice to talk to you again, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Jesse Trip.
I can't tell if you're joking.
They are not